G'day and welcome to the Business Builder's Journey. I'm Phil Bajura. Today I'm with Rob Weir, Director at Inspection Systems based in Melbourne. With more than 36 years of experience, Rob is a Director of Inspection Systems, specialising in advanced product inspection technologies for the food industry and also the pharmaceutical industry. Get that word out properly. His expertise spans magnetic, infrared, X-ray, visible light, ultraviolet light, and microwave and oxygen sensing and weighing inspection systems. Passionate about innovation, Rob delivers cutting-edge solutions that enhance product safety, quality, and manufacturing performance for customers. So welcome, Rob.
Thanks, Phil.
So I guess just to kick this off, how did you get into business for yourself in the first place?
Well, at the time, before I started the business, I was working for a guy and we were doing similar things, not as broad as what we do now. And I've been working for him for about 10 years and, constantly discussing with him the prospect of me getting to be part of the business or taking over the business in the future. And then one day, flippantly offered me 1% for a ridiculous amount of money, at which point I resigned the very next day.
Wow.
But it was, so I knew that there was no point hanging around there. But the day that he did that, he made that offer to me, I went home and downloaded, a Windows business plan writing software tool and wrote the first draft business plan for Inspection Systems, went and registered the company name and quit my job the next day because I knew there would be, some fiduciary duty that I had to do. And so that was in 1995 that I did that.
Wow. So I think you've explained the reason why you did it. At the time, what sort of problem were you trying to solve when you started that company?
The problem I was trying to solve was to not be constrained by his requirements or him being an employee. I always wanted to have my own business. I always believed that I would.
Yes.
What exactly, what it was going to be, I didn't know, but I always knew that I was going to do it. So the problem that I was trying to solve was the frustration of being constrained or being lied to by that person when, we were discussing my rise to owning that business one day and then obviously we weren't on the same path.
Yeah. And so how much of that was it about you getting control about your own destiny?
Was it my own destiny? Yeah, I think it was. I think what it was I just felt that I'd been lied to and, I would have happily been a partner and learnt the business and, but, just when I was offered 1% for a ridiculous amount of money, I just said, no, that's just not on.
Yep.
And there was, if I had have even considered it, there wouldn't have been any self-respect. I had, that was once that happened, I had to go.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. A challenging decision at the time, but congratulations on, I guess sticking to your values and your beliefs. So what was one of the earliest wins that you had that, really convinced you that you were actually onto something good?
Well, one of the very earliest wins was the feeling I got when I walked out of that place. I thought, well, that was a great decision. And then I went and worked on wages for another company doing a very similar thing, selling packaging machinery into the pharmaceutical and food industry and also other types of inspection equipment. And so that was a really big win because it broadened my horizons and I saw other things, saw other products. And so, that was a big win. That was probably the first big win. I hadn't even started the business yet, but I knew that that next step that I took was fortuitous. And later on, it paid back even more. It was something that went really well. So,
So when you say it paid back even more, in what context?
Well, after we started Inspection Systems, we were just doing one thing, and that was metal detectors and checkwires, yeah. And then we looked into more products in our portfolio, like oxygen sensing, leak detection, all that sort of stuff. And this next company that I moved to had those products. And as the guy who ran that company retired, we picked those products up from him and it became part of our portfolio. So that was a win. That was a win.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah,
And Rob, I guess being in the type of industry that you are, where you're representing many, many different types of products and many, many different types of suppliers, what would you see as being the biggest, I guess, challenge or obstacle that you faced in actually convincing, particularly overseas suppliers, to appoint you as their distributors in Australia and New Zealand?
great question. We've never had a problem with that. We've always, because we're so focused on our products and our market, we know it inside out. And I would suggest that over the time that the company's been running, we probably get one or two inquiries a week of people wanting to represent or wanting us to represent them.
Okay. Yep.
And if we ever see anything that we want to represent, we go for it very aggressively, especially when we've got some very niche products that, we're the only people, our suppliers are the only people in the whole world that do it. We don't have
Hmm.
any competition. So they're the products that we love to have.
Yes.
How we picked up our number one product, which is Loma inspection systems. They've been around for a long, long time, like 50 plus years. They're one of the original metal detector suppliers in the market. So when I was working for this guy, that was the primary product that I was selling, and
Hmm.
that was why I had to serve my fiduciary duty with somewhere else. And then I was sales repping, selling blister packers, pure steam generators, stills, all sorts of really cool gear. I was doing heaps of international travel, had a brand new car, was earning more money than I'd ever earned in my entire life. And I remember driving home one night and thinking, this is the most unhappy I've ever been in my entire life. And as that thought came through my mind, my business partner rang me, like it was at the same time. And he said, I'm ready to move, because he was working for the same guy. And I said, great, I'll see you down the pub. I've already written the business plan. All we've got to do is freshen it up. And the first place that we went to was Loma, which we are still the distributors for in Australia now. We wrote a business plan for them, and we sent it to them and said, this is what we can do. And they came back to us and said, two blokes under 30, and you're going to sell more of our equipment in 12 months than has ever been sold in any 12-month period in history. And we said, yep, that's what we're going to do. And that's what we did. So,
Wow.
yeah.
And so, when you embarked on that part of the journey, then how did
Uh,
you actually achieve selling more than had ever been done in history? What
we,
was it that you did differently?
we knew our market. We knew it intimately. We knew the food industry. We knew everybody who we needed to contact. And we were passionate and focused. And, if we said we did something, we did it.
Hmm.
And people believed us.
Yeah,
And they still believe us today. So
fantastic.
I think what we did when we wrote our business plan is we looked at what was happening in the industry. We knew our competitors, we knew the market, we had experience, and we had nothing to lose.
Absolutely. And so, if you go back to those early days, and I'm just trying to recall myself that mid-90s was a
Hmm.
big change in the food industry about food safety. How
Yes.
much of an impact did that actually have?
Yeah, it was a really good time. It was lucky. It wasn't lucky. It was we planned it. I was looking back through our business plan that I pulled out from '95 today, and we had terms in there like TQM and all the old acronyms that were used for quality back in those days. It was quite funny to see, and we knew those. We knew dairy, fruit, meat, those industries, all those acronyms are coming into play, and we knew how to meet their requirements.
Right. Okay.
So it was a really, really good thing for us.
Yeah, fantastic. What was one of the earliest mistakes that you made that you would never repeat again?
Well, I'm trying to think of one, but I always think that mistakes are probably the best thing you can ever make, because you learn so much from them.
Totally agree.
So to make the same mistake twice, well, I try not to do that. The biggest mistake that I've ever made that I wouldn't do again, I really can't think of anything that we did that was really bad that caused us problems.
Yeah. So, was there any tough patches on that journey? And then how did you deal with that then?
There was plenty of tough patches. There was times where we had a certain sector of the business where we were doing machinery, and then all of a sudden one of our competitors joined forces with another one of our competitors, and we were all of a sudden totally pushed out of the market. Like, we never ever sold another piece of equipment, and it was worth at the time a couple of $1 million a year in turnover in, materials, spares, and all those sorts of things. And that was a tough time.
Mm-hmm.
So I still remember it vividly. Brad and I just said, well, let's find something else to do. It was that simple. You've got to take those sorts of things on the challenge. And since then, we've had plenty of situations where multinationals who we represent have been bought by or purchased somebody, and all of a sudden we are no longer able to sell that product line. So if you can imagine you're selling your number one product, it's worth 60% of your turnover, and then all of a sudden, overnight, you're not allowed to sell it. And then you have to come back from that, and you just innovate, look around, find something else, and focus and do it.
Yeah.
That's probably the
So,
worst
so
thing that has ever happened to us.
yeah. So the word resilience comes to mind here. So where did resilience come into play for you in those type of situations?
I think once you get over I wouldn't even say shock, because most of the time we sort of had some sort of inkling that
Mm-hmm.
something was going to happen. So the first thing you do is go, well, something else will happen. Something always does happen as long as you just keep looking and trying. So that's what resilience is. You just keep looking for something to do, and something will happen, and you'll end up doing it. And it always turns out to be good.
Yes. Yeah. So it's having that positive mindset and belief, not only in yourselves, but in your products and services, that you'll be able to turn things around.
Exactly. And, that is our core beliefs, that, we're about customer service and providing the best possible solution to our customers. And if you truly believe that and do it, your customers won't forget it. To this day, like just 2 days ago, I was speaking to a guy. He's probably been around in the industry as long as I have. He's one of our customers, and he goes, "Look, you've done the right thing by us over the years. We really appreciate it." So, that's the sort of feedback that we get.
Yes, fantastic, Rob. So just switching gears a little bit into management and leadership. So, if you think back through your journey, how important has management and leadership been with, I guess, managing your team and even managing customers for that respect?
Yeah, it's probably been one of the best life journeys that I've ever been on, and I'm still on it. I don't think I'll ever get off it. When we started, it was Brad and I in my dad's garage in Montmorency, and
Hmm.
we're building electrical current control panels for the Nebule line at, what was it called back then? It was some pharmaceutical plant. And that's how we started. And now, we've got management systems, we've got processes, we've got procedures, we've got projects coordinators and logistics coordinators and uh, service managers and all these things. And all of that has been a journey, understanding how important it is, because you can't do it all yourself. And then once you build it, passing it on, and then accepting the ideas of the people that you've brought in to be better than yours. And it's one of the things that I really love is when somebody comes to you and goes, "Why are we doing this?" And you go, "Well, because of this, that, and the other." And they say, "Well, what about if we do it this way?" And you go, "That's much better than what I thought." And that experience has been fantastic. I love it when it goes right. Sometimes it doesn't go right. Sometimes you've got to offer guidance, but I would suggest that when you give somebody something to do and they own it, the passion and the enthusiasm with which they apply to their idea is much greater than you can provide by telling them or teaching them to do it.
Absolutely. And how big has your team grown to?
So I actually wrote this down because we had that discussion earlier. We've got 16 people in Australia and 5 in New Zealand. We've got 5 offices, so Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Christchurch, and Auckland.
Okay. In terms of, I guess, that management and leadership, then, what sort of meeting rhythms have you incorporated to, I guess, stay on top of communication and, everybody knowing what they should be doing and how they should be doing?
Yeah, so we have every 6 months, we bring all of the Australian team together. So
Mhm.
bring all, because we're spread all over the country, and we have a conference and we all learn about new stuff, go over policies, procedures and processes. And we do the same thing in New Zealand.
Mhm.
Communication, we have WhatsApp groups. So we've got a WhatsApp for sales, we've got a WhatsApp for service, and then we've got like the projects team, and everybody, which is something I'm really, really proud of. And I was just looking at it before I came to this interview, was one of our technicians is on site in Sydney, and he's gone, who's seen this problem before? And I was watching the WhatsApp group, and within 30 seconds, there's three technicians typing, have you checked this? Have you done that? And they're the sorts of things that I'm really proud of, building that team,
Yes.
because they're all motivated to help each other. Nobody is, one-upmanship on anybody, and we're all just, focused and trying to help.
Fantastic. So, that sounds like you've developed a really, really strong culture within the organization. What were some of the steps along the way that you can identify have been or have made a big impact on improving the culture with each step?
A trust and honesty and passion and commitment to
Yeah.
things. There's nothing that, I wouldn't ask any one of our guys to do that I haven't done or could do. Well, maybe not so much anymore, but most of all of our techs and sales guys, both Brad and I have had to come through and learn it and then pass it on. And they see the passion and the honesty with which you work, and then they want to be the same, and they want to strive to do that as well.
Yeah.
I think that's it. And one of the other notes that I made in the little thing here was, we've been going for nearly 30 years now, or 30 plus years, and our staff retention, our average staff retention is above 10 years, which is
Wow.
fantastic. Yeah, we've got some people who have
That's
been with us.
incredible.
Yeah, it's really good. So we got really dedicated, hardworking, honest, passionate people, which is, I think, if you've got that, you don't need much else. You just need something to sell.
So, how did you attract that talent then, Rob?
I think by being that talent, by being passionate, honest, and just saying it as it is, and being there for you guys. So, we've had customers who have not been pleasant to our people, and we immediately go back to those customers and go, this is absolutely not on. We're not prepared to work under these situations. We're not prepared to subject our guys. And you do that in a way that the people who work for you understand that you've got their back. And,
Yes.
if you've got their back, they've got your back.
Yeah. So, as part of your recruitment process, you've obviously been able to attract the right talent. As part of the recruitment process, what were the things that, when you were going through, particularly the interviewing steps, that allowed you to identify who was going to be suitable for the business and a fit for the culture that you were developing? What were some of the things that you identified there that have help the process?
Look, most of the people who work for us came from our suppliers. So we've had a lot of people who used to work for our suppliers in the UK, and they were coming out to Australia, immigrating or whatever. And we'd do a phone interview because Teams didn't exist back then, and they would recommend them to us, and that's how we got probably our core people. We've had people from our competitors who came across, who we know, they know us, and they said, we like the way you do business. We've seen what you do. We want to work for you. And you're just open and honest. And I don't know that we've documented any of that. Most of it's feel and experience, I would suggest.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. And how do you keep accountability without killing morale with those team members?
Give them challenges, present them with challenges. Say, look, I think you're fit for this job. I think you can do it. Do you think you can do it? I'm here to help. And then watch them shine.
Fantastic.
Mm.
So you've talked about systems and processes, and in terms of where's growth coming from in the future, what's the vision you actually have for the business now?
So when we started the business, I looked through that business plan that we wrote back in '95. We had 9 competitors. There was only 9 other people who were only selling metal detectors. Yeah. So out of those 9, none of them still exist. We're the only ones. Some of them have changed. So, some of the brands have moved from one company to the other or whatever. But we're the only ones who started then, who are still going then with the same supplier of our core
Wow.
equipment. Growth, and we always knew that we're never ever going to be 100% of the market. We're always going to have competitors in that space. So we always look to take on other products, and we've done that by moving into X-rays, into other mediums of inspection, so different wavelengths of light, near infrared, broad spectrum near infrared, microwave, X-rays, and we've gone to different suppliers and we've said, right, what have we got to offer the market? So we took on colour sorting, we took on optical sorting, we took on some permeation instrumentation, and the permeation instrumentation is the equipment that we picked up via my second employer. So they said, here you go, we want to do this, and then we also look at moisture meters that use near infrared to measure moisture, fat, protein, colour. So these are really specialised pieces of gear, and that's where we get our growth. So if we were to and during this whole time, we've had plenty of opportunity to diversify and become a supplier who doesn't just do what we do. So all we do is inspection equipment. And we've had plenty of people who say, why don't you sell some packaging gear? It's good margin and all the rest of it. And I don't know, and I probably will never know if those were good ideas or bad ideas to have said no. The name says it all. Inspection systems is what we do. Inspection systems is all we're going to focus on. We're just going to be the very best we can be at that one thing. I like to believe it was a good move. I don't know.
Yeah, so I guess what you're describing is that you've really niched into a specific channel, and how important has that been for you to be still in business today?
You can't measure it because we never deviated. We don't know.
Yes, yeah.
But I know that we've had competitors who were just doing what we did, and then they went out and started selling robots or packaging machinery or whatever, and none of them exist anymore. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, whether we haven't been broad enough or whether they were too broad and lost focus.
Yes, and I think there's plenty of global examples of, and even very large businesses that have tried to be all things to everything, only to have come back and gone back to their core business.
Agree. And it's a question I keep asking myself, but I believe that do what you do and do it well, and people will come.
Absolutely.
And that's the philosophy that we've stuck to.
Gosh, I can still hear my old man in the background saying, if you're going to do something, do it well.
Yeah, I think my dad said, stick to your knitting, son.
Rob, and I guess that, this next question is really aimed at most businesses want to say yes all the time. So when do you say no to a job, and what's the rule that you apply to that?
Yes, we love saying no. I love saying no. We're not going to do that because, and that's the next bit, you have to have reasons. Like, why aren't we going to do it? We're not going to do it because the customer isn't focused on the solution. They're just focused on the price. We're not going to do it because it's out of our wheelhouse. It's not something that we do. We're not going to do it because we don't believe it can be done. There's some of the reasons why we've said no to jobs. Or we've never said no to a job because we believed it was too big for us or whatever. The size of the job isn't an issue. We can, you can always upscale and get more resources. But all the reasons that we've said are we didn't believe that it was for us or for the customer. So the customer's going, just do this, and we go, no, we don't believe that that's possible, and we're not prepared to put our name to it.
Right. Okay. Great advice. So you mentioned pricing a minute ago. What sort of practical pricing tendering tips can you give that have improved your win rate and margins?
Never be in a market where the price is the point. That's the number one thing you want to be. We've always been absolute high end, always been probably one of the most expensive suppliers in the business. But we believe the best. We're the most focused on the solution. And if your customer doesn't want to buy the solution, then the price is irrelevant.
Mm.
So if you have to get into a price war, we try and move out of those markets where we're selling solutions, not prices. So I know that probably doesn't answer your question, and we don't, we do tenders, but we sell on the features, we sell on the benefits, and we sell on our experience and our ability to support our products. They're the things that we're selling. We're not selling the price.
Right. Okay. So you avoid getting into price wars with competitors then?
Yes, with all of our heart. But that we do get into price wars, and we win some and we lose some.
I guess it's the game of sales.
It is, yeah. It's a game of business, and business has changed in the last 30 years since we had 9 competitors when we started, and now we can't count them because every man and his dog sells a metal detector now. You can go and buy one from Temu if you want, and that's fine. Go buy one from Temu, but we have had so many customers who have gone out and bought the Temu metal detectors, and then 5 or 6 years later, when they're all broken and they can't get anybody to fix them, and they've had a contaminant get into the market, they come back, throw out their Chinese ones, or I don't mean to be specific. They're Korean, they're Chinese, they're Italian, whatever other brands. Not to say that those people don't make good machines, they do, but some of them are very cheap. And they throw them out and they buy our gear. And I buy our gear because it's really good gear and we support it. They're the two things.
Yeah. Rob, how important or what level of importance do you place on knowing your business numbers, both financially and operationally?
Probably you need to be so close to it that it's part of your diet. You need to know what are your overheads. What do I have to sell every month? What sort of numbers do I have to do every month? And if you're not doing them, then you've got to find a way to do them and find a way to just do it, whatever it takes. Otherwise, stop doing it.
And I guess in terms of decision making, how important is knowing that numbers in making the decisions that you need to make?
It's the whole reason why you make decisions. So we look at, when we're trying to put on another technician or expand, and we go, why are we doing this? So we always wanted to have more technicians remotely so that, you weren't one man out in a state. And you get to a point where that guy is working too hard, he's away from home too often, and then you go, right, if we get extra resource in there, we can't fully utilize all that resource, but we can start to take some resource from that area and put it into another area, and they're the sorts of things that you have to sit down and nut out and go, the reason that we made this decision is because of X, Y, and Z. And you need to write down why you did it so that in the future when the bean counters come in and go, how come the Brisbane office is the least profitable office in your portfolio? And you go, well, got too much resource there, but we don't have enough to have only one. And the plan was to have that extra resource there and then utilize it in places where we're lacking in resource. And this is the reason we did it. And if you can just keep those reasons in your mind, it helps you just justify your position when you're looking at that. Tough decisions where you're talking about, you don't have enough work to support it, but you've got to do it because you've got too much work not to do it.
Yes. Yeah. No, great advice there. Just thinking about, you mentioned that you've brought on a lot of new technology, a lot of new products. A lot of things that haven't been in your skill area. How do you, in bringing those types of products in, how do you upskill not only yourselves but the team to be able to represent the product to the best of your ability?
Yeah, I love doing this. This is a favourite part of my job. We Brad and I go out and find crazy things to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then we bring them to the guys and go, hey guys, check this out. Who wants to be the subject matter expert for this? And usually there's a fight over who's going to do it, And that's why we love our guys so much, is they're so passionate about wanting to be learning new stuff. And we send them overseas to learn things, and they come back and they teach us things. And they also become great salesmen in themselves. The technicians who understand the technology, leading edge, exciting new stuff, and then you put them in front of a customer, you can't shut them up. And the customers love it. The customers love a technician who's passionate about their job. They don't want somebody in a flash shirt with some shiny shoes. They want someone with a toolbox who's covered in product to say, this is why it's worked, this is why it's happening, this is why this is the best, and that sort of passion and belief in the product and the product knowledge is unstoppable.
Fantastic. Lessons learned. So if you could do a bit of a rewind, is there
Mhm.
anything that you could put your finger on and say, I wish I'd done that sooner?
I wish I'd got a operations manager sooner. I wish
Mhm.
I'd got a projects coordinator sooner. I wish I had. I don't wish any of these things. I don't wish them because I find wish to have negative connotations, like you didn't make a good decision at the time. It would have been beneficial for me if I had have, or beneficial for the business if we had to recognise that we needed processes and systems earlier than what we did.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in that recognition then, if you did have them earlier, what impact would have that had on the business at the time?
It would have prevented a couple of big boo-boos that we made. Like, we reported one year that we had over $250,000 in stock that we paid tax on, and we we said we had it in stock, but what we had done is not transferred it out of stock. Stupid things like that. If we had had these systems in and operating sooner, we would have not made those mistakes.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
And when you're dealing with the sort of stock that we're dealing with, like we've got spare parts that are, worth $150,000, and you've got one of those on your shelf, you don't need to lose many of those before you're in trouble.
Yes. Yeah. Again, it all comes back to knowing your numbers.
Yeah, exactly. So, how come we haven't invoiced all these parts? Why is the invoicing down? What's going on? And then you go searching into it and you go, oh, well, the reason that we're doing that is because we haven't taken the parts out of stock. So we sold them and we got paid for them, but we still said that we owned them. So that's like declaring an asset,
Absolutely. Rob, what have you actually learned about yourself on your business journey?
What have I learned about myself? What have I learned about myself? I learned that I don't suffer fools. I could be a lot more patient. I think that there's been times where I've been criticised for being a little bit too enthusiastic, but my enthusiasm is mainly passion. I've learnt to have faith that everything will be okay. Most of the time, everything's going to be okay. A couple of things that my business partner says quite often, Brad, he says, nothing's ever as bad or as good as you think it's going to be. I like that one.
Great wisdom.
Yeah. And 90% of the things that you worry about don't ever happen. Those are probably some very valuable life lessons. And one of the things that we discussed when we were talking about this whole interview was stoicism. And I was saying to you that on my desk I've got the prayer, or what's the other word for it?
Affirmation.
Affirmation that says, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, and courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. I think the last line's the best bit, and I know that that's the Alcoholics Anonymous prayer, and I know that it's relevant to so many things in your life, but it's also really relevant to business because some things are out of your hands and you just got to put your hands somewhere else when those things get taken out of it, I think. So what have I learned about myself? It's hard to say that. It's hard to say, Phil.
And look, it's something that we should always be challenging ourselves with. Well, what have I actually learned about not only business, but about life as well? And I'm still keep asking myself that same question every day. So
yeah, well, what have you learned about life? I mean, business is a great way. It's a great leveler, because the buck stops here. And but there's a lot of belief involved, a lot of belief in your core values. Belief in your core values is what it's all about.
yeah.
Be honest.
So what?
That's it.
Yep, absolutely. So what words of wisdom would you pass on to anyone considering going into business for themselves?
Don't go into business just to make money, because you can work for someone else and make money. If money is your focus, then business is probably not for you. You're gonna make a dollar if you're passionate about it and all the rest of it. You'll make money, but the reason you need to be in business is because you want to achieve something.
Yes.
And
Great
it's not.
words of wisdom, Rob.
Well, thanks, Phil.
Yep. Oh, look, it's a mistake that I see too many business owners making is it's all about the money. It's never about the money. The money is the result of everything else that you do.
Exactly. Yeah. If you do everything else well, the money will come.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's not the thing you should focus on. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess a final question is, if you consider where the business is at today and your industry, what do you see as being the future for the industry, Rob?
Wow. What do I see the future for the industry is?
Or even the main challenges for the industry?
Main challenges for the industry are like all challenges in anybody's industry, and that is we live in a business that is a throwaway society.
Mm-hmm.
Everything, like, we buy electronics now, and the minute you buy it, it's redundant. So
Mm.
you go and buy a screen, and then you go, "Oh, give me 10 of those." They go, "Sorry, no, we've upgraded them to these different part number, different model." And you go, "Well, what about this old one?" They go, "Yeah, well, you've got to do X, Y, Z to make it fit it or change it or do what, to make it work." So the biggest challenge I see for this industry is longevity of products. So you go out there now and you buy a machine, and 5 years later, you can't get parts for it. Now, we always say that we've got 10 years life in our machines, and even that, some people are just like, "Well, that's not good enough. I want it to last for 20 years."
Mm.
But we're in leading edge electronics, and the components that I was selling 30 years ago, you can't buy them today. You just cannot buy the component. Like, there's some RAM chips and things that are on processor boards that you just can't buy, and there's
Mm.
nothing that I can do about that. And so the challenge for the future of this industry is that we've become such a throwaway society that machines aren't going to last, and machines don't last like they used to.
Yes. Yeah, and there's not much anybody can do about that. I mean, technology is certainly, it just keeps increasing in pace.
It does. And everybody makes things to a price. Like, just a simple bearing nowadays is made to a price. 30 years ago, it was a different thing. You made a bearing and it lasted for 30 years. Now they just don't. And I'm using something simple and mechanical like that we all know about. It's good and it's bad. Like, there's good things. We used to sell X-ray machines that had oil pumps and heat exchangers in them. And now we sell an X-ray machine where you go and buy a generator and it gives you 20,000 hours, and then you throw it in the bin and you buy a new one. Now, what's good about that? There was a lot of servicing that had to be done. It was difficult servicing. There was dangerous goods involved. There was transport of dangerous goods to transport the oil and all that sort of stuff around. And now we just buy a box, put it in, and change it. I think that is actually progress. Even though the old machines last much, much longer, they still did fail, and when they failed, it was the amount of resource and pollution and everything that went along the way is much worse than now, where you just buy a box and put it in there, and then you recycle the old box.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Rob. So, where can people find you? Are you on social media, websites, all that sort of thing?
Yeah, look, our website's probably our number one place to find us, which is, all the W's, Inspection Systems.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're on LinkedIn. We don't do TikTok. I've got a very small Facebook presence, but yeah, that's our main source. So most of the stuff we do is B2B, not social.
Yeah. So, LinkedIn and your website would be the main areas.
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Rob, for sharing your story today.
No worries.
I look forward to following you on the journey and into the future and celebrating the wins that you have along the way. If you're a business owner with a business story that resonates with this podcast and you'd like to be on the show, please reach out to us. I'm Phil Bajura, turning business dreams into reality. See you on the next episode.